There's a giant scam in the industry called proprietary blends, where they'll put 17 ingredients all together and it'll be 500 milligrams. It's incredibly underdosed for all the ingredients. Always avoid proprietary blends.
Nutritionist and dietitian Shawn Wells.
Shawn Wells.
Shawn Wells.
Shawn Wells. He has formulated and patented over 1,000 supplements to help people pioneer their health.
We're always told about the power of going and getting it, but we're not told about the power of relaxing, the power of taking care of your body.
Can we fix our moods by right supplementation?
I think, first off, but when you give the right form, the right dose, the right timing, these can be powerful ingredients.
Can you tell what a nutrient someone's lacking based on their mood? Is there a nutrient that can help with empathy? Is there a supplement for narcissism?
We're getting GMOs, we're getting microplastics, we're getting EMFs. We're at a point now where I believe it's impossible to eat all the nutrients that you need. And if we want to not only move away from deficiency, but think about optimization, then you have to supplement. Supplementation is no longer supplemental, but foundational.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another day on the Mindvalley podcast. Today, we have another exciting adventure with the one and only Shawn Wells. He is a nutritional biochemist, and he has formulated and patented over 1,000 supplements to help people pioneer their health. Shawn, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm excited to talk about your latest discovery and formulation for Mindvalley states. But before we delve into that, I'd like to know what inspired you personally to start on this journey of formulating supplements.
I had a difficult childhood, a lot of stress, a lot of trauma, and I ended up being a junk food junkie, soothing myself with food and becoming morbidly obese. I was laughed at by the girls. I had teachers make fun of me. I was bullied for it. So it kind of compounded what was already bad and difficult in my childhood. But when I got to college, I was going to the school, Babson, the #1 business specialty school in the country, in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And doing what people had told me to do, go to business school, be smart, wasn't necessarily my passion. But I started working out in between my sophomore and junior year, and I lost a lot of fat, gained a lot of muscle using all kinds of supplements. Things like creatine had just come out, protein, BCAAs. And I went to my doctor to get a physical before my junior year in college. And I told him all about all these things that I was doing. I was so excited. He saw the transformation in my body. And he looked at me and saw my enthusiasm and drew out on a piece of paper a lifeline. And he said, "This is 20. This is 80. Why not be happy between here and here?" And I was just like, what just happened? He just saw how passionate and lit up I was about supplements. And I expected this doctor to essentially make fun of supplements, but instead he did the opposite. He gave me permission to pursue my passion. And this was before the Oprahs and Tony Robbins and social medias and Instagram influencers all saying to go do those things. At that time, I was just told, be smart, go to business school, get a job at a consulting firm, make $100,000 a year and be happy. And none of that sounded like it would make me happy. But this, getting permission to pursue my passion from someone who's smart and accomplished, changed my whole life path. There would be no Shawn Wells, there would be no 1,000 formulas and 40 ingredients that I've patented. There wouldn't be me speaking on stages. There wouldn't be the influence that I've had without that one man saying those things to me.
Do you remember his name?
I don't, and I've tried to go back, because at the time I didn't realize just how special it was. But I've mentioned him in my book, The Energy Formula, and I really appreciate what he said to me. But I think it wasn't about him, getting credit for that. And I think about it all the time too. Like, my words can have massive impact on people.
Would you say it was the supplementation that really affected the state of your health, or was it the state of your mind that changed the state of your health?
Oh, that's great. There's not one without the other, for sure. And I believe very passionately, one, you do need these nutrients. These nutrients can have transformative power when they're in the right form, in the right dose, with the right timing. All of that's very important. There's a giant scam in the industry called proprietary blends, where they'll put 17 ingredients all together and it'll be 500 milligrams. It's incredibly underdosed for all the ingredients. And it's a giant scam. Always avoid proprietary blends. But when you give the right form, the right dose, the right timing, and they have the studies behind them, these can be powerful ingredients. But I also believe, one, there's bio-individuality, meaning we're all different, and I can't guarantee your genetics or how those genetics get expressed as epigenetics. And then two, the state of your nervous system, I think, is profoundly important. Meaning, like when I was depressed, when I was in these states where I was suicidal, my nervous system was very dysregulated. I was always in fight or flight, in sympathetic nervous system. I would have not used these nutrients nearly as well.
What does that mean? You mean your body couldn't utilize it?
My body wouldn't absorb them, utilize them, and put them to work nearly as well because I'm in fight or flight. It's not in a state, like literally parasympathetic is known as rest and digest. Digest meaning like it's able to break these things down, use these nutrients, deliver them to where they need to be. Instead, people that are in fight or flight, that are in sympathetic nervous system, often aren't getting the benefits of these nutrients. So I do think it's very important to seek out self-care, to get therapy, to ground yourself, to do meditation, breath work, to get into parasympathetic just as much. It's important to get into sympathetic nervous system. Sometimes we have to go chase it. We need to get it done. We need to get productive. But it's also important to relax, to be zen, to go inwards. And I think we're always told about the power of being in sympathetic, the power of being in your masculine, the power of going and getting it in a capitalistic world. But we're not told about the power of relaxing, the power of self-care, the power of getting in your feminine, the power of taking care of your body.
Although the doing and the achieving, I don't see that as masculine necessarily. I see the doing and achieving, which comes from the ego, as being in your immature masculine energy. Because the state of rest can also be masculine. You can be in a state of rest, but being in your mature masculine energy of knowing that I got everything under control, so I can allow my body to rest. But one thing that fascinates me here, when we are in fight or flight, does that make supplementation useless?
I don't know about useless. I think you may have to dose these things higher. You may have to expect that it'll take longer. You may have to find moments of zen, like maybe as you're taking the supplement, and this will be a big part of our Mindvalley states, is having gratitude at the time, being in essentially prayer or gratitude when you're taking the supplement. Thinking about what that supplement's supposed to do. You know, a common prayer is that, you know, thank you, God, for the food we're about to receive, like let it nourish our bodies. That's actually a very potent prayer. Thinking about what you have before you, having the gratitude that you're about to eat this meal, that many people won't eat a meal today, and that this meal will nourish and strengthen your body so that you can achieve, so that you can be a gift to God, an instrument for God. And I do believe the same is true with a supplement. If we hold that supplement and think about the benefit, have gratitude for it, what the power of it's supposed to be, where it's supposed to go, I believe that the effect will be heightened.
So we have the power to alchemize the supplements.
That's great. I love that. Yes.
Back to the term proprietary blend is a scam.
Yes.
Is that a marketing scam to get people to purchase the supplements?
100%.
Okay. What does that really mean when it says proprietary
So
blend?
proprietary blend is you could have as many ingredients, and this is completely legal. Mm-hmm. For example, you have the Muscle and Power blend. There's 17 ingredients in this blend, and it's 1,000 milligrams. Mm-hmm. The first ingredient, this goes in order of descending mass, meaning that it goes from the most mass, weight, to the least. The first ingredient could be 999 milligrams. Mm-hmm. The other 16 ingredients could be 1 milligram.
Wow.
So this is completely legal to do. So they can pick an ingredient, that first ingredient, that is the cheapest, and then they can have a whole bunch of other ingredients that you know of, that you've heard of, that you've seen, that, wow, that it's got this, it's got this, it's got this. I've heard of all these. These are incredible. I just saw an article on this. I just saw this one on the news. This is a great formula. And yet it essentially has none of those things in it. And this is a giant scam. And it's very frustrating.
So proprietary blend is a way for supplement companies to hide what really is in the blend and how much.
Correct. The only thing I could guarantee you is the majority of whatever's in that blend is probably the first ingredient, and you essentially have almost none of all the other ingredients.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what I'm understanding from what you're saying, we need to help no matter how many supplements we're taking, we need to help the body alchemize the supplementations by putting it in the parasympathetic nervous system state where we can get the most out of the nutrients in the supplements.
Correct.
You mentioned earlier that there was a study where when supplementation was happening, the patients were put in a state of relaxation, right? You said with the ketamine therapy when they were...
Oh, yes. Okay, so Dr. Matt Cook, who is very famous for his ketamine therapy. Ketamine is legal as a therapy in a clinical environment in the United States. It's typically used for anxiety and depression, but people have breakthroughs similar to psychedelic journeys in ketamine. Ketamine will dissociate you. In higher doses, it's used clinically as an anesthetic. So literally you can operate on someone. So you can be dissociated. You can be in this parasympathetic state that you are relaxed, and so much so if you go deep enough that I could operate on you. Mm-hmm. But what he does is he times that with exosomes, stem cells, PRP. These are biologics that will enhance and essentially give the body more youth, as well as things to reset the mitochondria, things like NAD as an IV. So it's a full body reset because the body is in a complete state of receiving because it's relaxed. And for a lot of people, like I was in my youth, most certainly, and even up through probably about 4 or 5 years ago, prior to my first experience in psychedelics, I was very dysregulated with my nervous system. I was always in fight or flight. I was in what I would call, you can call it what you want, I would call it like wounded masculine. Like when I was in Peru, they called it wounded puma, like puma energy. I was always going and getting it 80, 100 hours a week, but I was very wounded in my masculine. And so I had a dysregulated nervous system. I was not able to rest and digest. I could not fall asleep without drugs. When the lights went off, my brain went crazy, you know, with the monkey mind, thinking about all the things I should have said, thinking about all the things I could have done. And my life was in the space of imposter syndrome and insecurity. I was always worried about the rooms I would walk into if I could receive love. And love was fleeting for me because I believed that love had to be earned and love could be taken away. So I was always a human doing and not a human being. And I didn't know what unconditional love was. I didn't know that you could just be loved for being you. So I was always trying to earn my way into rooms, earn my way into receiving your love or adulation. And I was never in a state of receiving.
How do you think psychedelics helped you?
So my first experience on psychedelics, it was in psilocybin mushrooms. I was in a room filled with celebrities. If I went through this list, you would know all 20. Very, very popular people, very well known. And for that reason, I was like, why am I even in this room? And I was scared to even introduce myself or brag on myself in this case. So I just kind of hid out in the corner. And I ended up taking the psilocybin, and the facilitators were amazing. This was a great experience, very safe. But I ended up on a cuddle puddle on the floor. That's what they call this, like when you have like the pillows and blankets. And I was just laying on the floor, receiving touch from people. And that was, I mean, that's my love language. I didn't receive that much when I was growing up. I didn't feel like a loving touch. And it was so calming and sweet, and people were holding space for me. I was going very deep in the medicine. Other people weren't necessarily nearly as deep as I was. And people were just laying around me, helping me, laughing with me, holding space for me. And it was like one of those time-lapse, you know, movies where people were kind of swirling in and out of my cuddle puddle the entire night. I never moved the entire night. And I had this epiphany of why? Like, why would people do this for me? These people don't know who I am. They're so important. Why would they be kind to me? And my aha was, I can be loved. I can have love. I don't have to do anything to earn love. And that was mind-blowing for me. I remember staring at the ceiling, still laying there, like when everyone was asleep, just thinking this shifted everything in my life. That I no longer had to stay in that wounded puma energy. That I could just be. That I could just be loved. I could just have love. So that not only shifted the love for myself, but the way that I showed up for others. I always felt like I was giving. I was a giver, but it was just emptying my cup. And now that I felt filled with love from God, from myself, that's unconditional, that cup never felt empty.
So you were no longer at the mercy of your mood. It sounds like you entered that room at the mercy of the imposter syndrome that was playing in your head, that you're not good enough, they're better than you, why would anybody love you? And psychedelics help with that mood. It lifted that mood. I always say, we the people are at the mercy of our moods. But with your background, it sounds to me that supplementations can empower us to not be at the mercy of our moods, because our moods can be due to basically the moods we experience can be due to lack of supplementations or lack of nutrients that we need inside of our bodies. Can you tell what nutrient someone's lacking based on their mood?
Oh, sure. I think, you know, first off, genetically, there's huge differences with all of us. Like, for example, one of the ingredients that's in the Mindvalley states that I've actually created and patented with my team is called paraxanthine. That's a metabolite of caffeine. About 60% of us do not metabolize caffeine well via the CYP1A2 gene. And this means that many of us, this is leading to part of that dysregulated nervous system because we're experiencing brain fog, anxiety, agitation, sleep disruption from caffeine. We don't all experience caffeine the same way. Mm-hmm. And so this is true of so many nutrients. Another one is the MTHFR gene in how we metabolize folate. Folate is an important B vitamin that has to do with anemia and having enough energy. And about 40% of us don't metabolize folic acid well unless we get it in the active form, which is called 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. And so if we don't get that active form, we can end up anemic even though we're getting enough folic acid. If we end up getting a lot of caffeine, we can have sleep disruption, brain fog, and agitation. So if you don't understand these things, you are really at the mercy of a lot of these supplements that are not formulated well, or even beverages or foods that are not supplemented well with the right nutrients. Mm-hmm. So you can end up in states where you're tired, where you have brain fog, where you're low on energy. And of course, that's going to lead to dysregulated moods when you're not sleeping well, when you're not feeling good, when you're not focused.
So humans are at the mercy of their moods. Our moods are at the mercy of the nutrients in the body, and the nutrients in the body can be supplied by supplements. So can we fix our moods by right supplementation?
I believe so. I think there's certainly a mental component to it, but they're both going to play into each other. It's just like I believe the supplements could be powerful for working out, but you have to show up and work out. So I think it's the same here. I think you need to do the inner work. You need to do the meditation. You need to do the learning, the grounding, the breath work, etc. But also taking these powerful nutrients is going to be transformative as well. So it's going to truly be synergistic in achieving higher states. And that's why we called these supplements that we've worked on with Mindvalley states, because you too can elevate your state. You can formulate your state. I'm known as the world's greatest formulator, but I've learned that, like, I have a hero's journey that you just heard about, but now I'm the mentor, I'm the guide. I'm the Mr. Miyagi to the Karate Kid. I'm the Obi-Wan to the Luke Skywalker. I am the guide so that they can have their hero's journey. I want them to formulate their state. I want them to no longer give away their sovereignty to big pharma, to big medicine, and they can choose the state they want to be in by taking these precision mood pills. And then you can even combine states for an even higher experience. And of course, there's an idea called psychosomatic anchors in neurolinguistic programming, something that Jim Quick, Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza use quite heavily. It's like how you use your language in particular, but also how you anchor things in your body to call back certain moods. So we're going to not just use these powerful supplements that are formulated extremely well, no proprietary blends. They're all in the right dose, the right form, the right timing. Everything is perfect for these. They're branded ingredients, all have multiple studies on each ingredient. But you can stack them with the music, with the mantras, with the breath work, with the essential oils. That'll all be part of this experience. These will actually have NFC chips in them that you put your phone down on, and it'll pull up all of these things so that you can anchor these around that experience. So now, like I said, like how you have gratitude, how you get into parasympathetic, how you can breathe in that essential oil and maybe feel more intimate or erotic, or maybe feel more blissful and euphoric, or maybe feel more calm and relaxed. All of those things will be achieved through this collective research in Mindvalley states.
So Mindvalley states is a multi-dimensional biochemistry, which combines supplementation with mental states by putting the body in the receiving state and then adding the nutrients in the supplements to the body to achieve the optimal state that we are seeking.
Exactly. And it all starts with receiving. And when you surrender, you actually can be sovereign. Mm-hmm. I know that seems counterintuitive to some, but it's surrendering, getting into your parasympathetic, getting into rest and digest. You can receive all of these things to your body.
So if I want to sleep, if I want to achieve that restful state, how can Mindvalley states help me?
Yeah, I mean, that's this dream right here. And so, again, when you put your phone down on this, you'll receive mantras around what it is to relax, what it is to lucidly dream. Mm-hmm. All of these ingredients here will help you get into that restful state of sleep. And again, promote, this isn't just called dream metaphorically. This is literally about having lucid dreams. I have ingredients in here that will enhance lucid dreaming. Mm-hmm. Because I think that's part of a deeper, more spiritual experience.
What if I want to focus more?
We have that too, and it has my ingredient, the paraxanthine infinity, in here, and that's that ingredient that is the metabolite of caffeine. It removes caffeine, which again, about 60% of us don't metabolize well. We do get brain fog, anxiety, sleep disruption, and this not only has greater focus, less mental errors, like dramatically different. We did a study doing a 10K race, and the athletes at the end of the race did a multitasking test. Caffeine increased mental errors 10%. The decrease with paraxanthine was around 30%. Mm-hmm. So this is a massive difference between the two. They are not at all the same. Paraxanthine is a completely different ingredient. We're showing that with preclinical studies, it's enhancing neuroplasticity, making the brain younger and function better.
You do one-on-one sessions with clients to customize what supplements they need. Mm-hmm. You have this mantra where you say you can be your own formulator to formulate the supplements that are necessary for your body. When people approach you, can you tell what supplements they need based on their mental state?
Yes, you definitely want it. I've held space in the psychedelic space for sure. And I think you can read energies. I think that's something that you're aware of, and definitely like the field around someone, the nervous system. I can just tell where the nervous system is at. And that's where you want to start. So again, if they are very dysregulated, they are in sympathetic nervous system. And a lot of people that would come to me are coming for the reason like I was at one point, where I was all about accomplishment. How do I accomplish more? That's how I got into biohacking. I wrote a book about biohacking called The Energy Formula. Mm-hmm. We're interested in somehow accomplishing more, not knowing that we actually need to do less. We need to strip things back. We need to surrender more. And so that's something that I see quite often with clients that I work with, is that they have these dysregulated nervous systems, and that's what I would first address.
One thing that affected me tremendously recently was watching the presidential debate between the two candidates of the United States of America. When watching that debate, were you observing lack of supplementations in both candidates?
It could very well be. Neither one of them appear to be very healthy. I think I feel sad for President Joe Biden. It's sad. I feel like it's, I worked for 10 years in nursing homes as a chief clinical dietitian, and it feels like elder abuse. Like, I was very sad watching it, not just sad for the United States, but just sad for him as a human, that he seemed very confused. He wasn't able to get off the stage. Jill, his wife, had to help him down. it really makes me sad inside for the human, knowing that he's being paraded around and there's some agenda there, and I don't know the entire situation. We'll never know. We're not in those circles. And as far as President Trump, I had a journey around that where I felt so much gratitude and love for my experiences, for the people around me that loved me, even for my ex-wife. Like, I had so many beautiful thoughts that were coming through, business partners that had hurt me. I saw all the beautiful things in these people, and one of my epiphanies in that space was thinking of President Trump being like the greatest American story ever about becoming a billionaire, becoming a TV superstar, marrying a model, writing best-selling books, becoming the president of the United States. No one has that resume. And yet he's still hurting. He's still sad. He's still a hurt boy projecting hurt. And that gave me pain.
I think that comes from the fact that we all do a lot of things to achieve external validation.
Yes.
And to fill up our resumes, but there's no amount of external validation on the outside that can fill our cup on the inside if we are not giving ourselves internal validation.
Exactly.
Which leads to narcissism, which leads to self-hatred, and then we project that onto others and cause pain for others and ourselves. Is there a supplement for narcissism?
I don't know about that. I think it's difficult. There's people that think that there's no cure for narcissism. But I do know that there's essentially a scale, and we all have elements of narcissism. I think there's serving the ego, to your point. Like, we all do things that are in service of ourselves. And I think it's the degree, and just saying this can be triggering, but please research it. Like, there's a scale where at certain points in our lives, it might be helpful to just do you, right? And just be self-focused. But I also know, like, a lot of my depression in the past was when I wasn't serving. Mm-hmm. And when I could get out of my own way. That's very powerful. Last year, when I did a keynote on psychedelics and depression here at Mindvalley U, I got a standing ovation, and it was beautiful, and I was like in tears. I was literally crying. And a girl came up to me afterwards that was 17, and she said that she was here with her mother, and this was the only talk she came to see across the 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. This one. And she said that she was considering killing herself. And hearing my talk was the difference. And I think, she was even like autistic, I think, to some degree. And she was, going back and forth like this and had trouble looking me in the eye. But I gave her a hug and told her how powerful that was to me, because literally the mantra I said before I walked out on stage is, if I can make a difference in one person's life, all of this is worth it. And it's not about me. I need to get out of my own way. Like, even when I get anxious, I still get anxious when I go up on stage. I'm like, well, don't make it about you. Make it about them. And if you can have an impact on one person, it can be very powerful. And I think that we say that narcissism can't be healed, but I do believe that in the right environments, maybe through psychedelics, that there could be a great awakening. And that's why I'm excited about this kind of age of Aquarius that we're heading into, an age of enlightenment. I know the word woke has been kind of broken and beaten down and kind of used for agendas and narratives and all that kind of stuff, but there is a waking up that's happening. There is an unplugging from the matrix, and I do believe everyone has the capacity to be healed. I don't ever like the idea that someone is incapable of being healed or broken.
Mm-hmm. Narcissism is caused by lack of empathy.
Yeah.
And lack of empathy is something that your neurons communicate with the rest of your nervous system, so you can understand intellectually and then feel the empathy for the other. Is there a nutrient that can help with empathy?
Well, I do. The formula that we have for bliss, I really believe could help with that. There's an ingredient from bacopa called synapsa. It's the branded form of bacopa, and it increases synaptic activity. So it's going to increase thought formation. Then we have ingredients in there that are increasing serotonin levels. There's a natural SSRI called Kana. The branded form is Zembrin. And there's ingredients in there like saffron that enhance serotonin production as well. And there's a small amount of that paraxanthine that I was talking about that increases dopamine and serotonin, and acetylcholine increases neuroplasticity. When you look at depression, the brain is low across the board, not just serotonin and all neurotransmitters. It's also low in BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This protein is associated with neuroplasticity, the ability to take on new tasks, to learn, to renew neurons, brain cells. And so if you know that depression and maybe potentially narcissism is about lower neurotransmitters and lower neuroplasticity, and it's a way to protect the brain to feel less, to experience less, to turn it all down, then I'm helping to turn it back up with this formula, that you can experience more, that you can have more neuroplasticity, that you can have greater neurotransmitters, that you can feel more feelings and therefore connect on a deeper level. All of these neurotransmitters that are associated with that formula are about connecting with another person. So it is possible, but again, I would attach other behaviors to that, other habits to that, other psychosomatic anchors to that, to really augment the power of the formula. And that could be some of the other experiences with Mindvalley.
So narcissists have less neuroplasticity because their brain is protecting them from feeling?
Yeah, and neurotransmitters are turned down as well. So
they don't feel as much. Why are narcissists scared of feeling?
I mean, when you're highly neuroplastic, when your neurotransmitters are turned up, you are going to feel and experience more, which means the chance for trauma is going to be much higher. And that trauma could be more impactful if everything's turned up. This is why, something like MDMA could be a concern if you're at a rave and something bad happens, because you're seeing brighter lights, you're hearing more music, and that sounds fun, that you're experiencing more. But at the same time, if something tragic happens or traumatic happens, then you're going to experience that on a deeper level, much like a child would. So a solution to that is to turn all those things down and or to dissociate, to leave your body essentially. And that's what you find with depression, and that's what you would find with narcissism, is dissociation. Lower neurotransmitters, less neuroplasticity.
Does that mean that most narcissists were terribly traumatized before?
Oh, I would naturally assume so. I mean, I know there could be some kind of genetic component to being predisposed to a certain brain chemistry. That argument, I'm sure, has been made, but I am sure that most narcissists were coming from traumatic backgrounds. Just even thinking of the example of President Trump, I know that his father was very abusive to him. Was a very tough man, if you research that. Yeah.
So narcissists that are born with genetic predispositions of narcissism are carrying a tremendous amount of generational trauma.
100%. And that's not even like something that's woo, which, you know, I believe in the woo now that I've done more work in psychedelics. But even if you look at the science around this, in our genes, there is shown to be like anywhere from like 7 to 14 generations of data that's stored in our genes. For example, if you had, you know, a great-great-grandmother drown in a river, it's going to be stored in your genes to know that you should have fear of water because it's going to lead to survival of the species. Mm-hmm. When a baby joey is born, a kangaroo is born, it's blind and it knows how to travel from the mother's vagina to the pouch. When bees come into the world, when ants come into the world, the second they come in, they already know what to do. There's that hive mind. It's stored in the DNA. It's not just about like the things you learn as you go along.
Oh, wow. That was very interesting. And it just gave me an aha moment, because I always wonder why certain nationalities or cultures are more empathetic, warmer, emotionally expressive. And what I'm understanding now is nutrients play a very important factor on our moods. For example, I always wonder why Middle Easterners are more empathetic and warmer. And when you said that one ingredient or one nutrient that affects our neurons to make us more empathetic is saffron. Mm-hmm. Middle Easterners are known for consuming a lot of saffron.
100%.
So then that can help us understand why certain countries or certain cultures have differences in their social skills or their connection skills, and how by unifying the nutrients that we all use as human beings, we can bridge the gap between cultures and nationalities and heritages.
It's funny that you bring up vitamin. I was just going to go to vitamin D because you were saying warmer personalities, but warmer climates that are exposed to more sunshine, they're going to get higher levels of vitamin D, whereas some of these northern climates like maybe Estonia, Finland, etc., where they're not getting as much sunlight, they're not going to have as much vitamin D. And there is a crisis of vitamin D in literally pandemic levels, where about 80% of the population globally is not getting enough vitamin D. And that can absolutely lead to mood disorders and depression. Mm-hmm. So supplementing with vitamin D is important, vitamin D3, or getting enough sunshine, or both, can be very important. But if you're in gray areas, dark areas, cold areas where you're not getting enough sunshine, or you're always wearing long sleeve clothing and your body's covered up and you're rarely getting enough exposure to your body of light, you will probably be deficient in vitamin D.
So I want to wrap this up by saying my understanding of this profound conversation we had together is that supplementation can in fact help bring humans closer to one another. Right supplementation can bridge the gap between different cultures and different nationalities, because by all of us humans being on the same nutrients and receiving the same nutrients, we can be on closer moods than we are right now. And the closer we are to one another in terms of the level of happiness, bliss, and emotions, the more comfortable we can be with one another to connect and to become one. So I conclude that right supplementations can help with oneness for humanity.
All of these are about connecting on a deeper level. Dream is about connecting with yourself and God. Gasm is like connecting with another partner intimately. Bliss, about achieving that higher state of euphoria. And Zen and focus, these are about connecting, about being your heightened, elevated self. Mm-hmm. Elevating your state, formulating your state. And I believe that supplementation is no longer supplemental, but foundational. It's that important because we're not getting enough of these nutrients in our soil. We're not getting enough of these nutrients from our foods. We're getting GMOs, we're getting microplastics, we're getting EMFs, we're getting exposed to glyphosate, all of these things that we're getting exposed to. There's thousands of chemicals that are introduced, at least in the US, every year that are not studied. Thousands of new chemicals that are put into the glues and dyes and paints and all through our environment. And so we're at a point now where I believe it's impossible to eat all the nutrients that you need. It cannot be done. And if we want to not only move away from deficiency, but think about optimization and about achieving these elevated states, which so many don't want us to achieve, then you have to supplement. And that's why I believe these things are now foundational and not supplemental.
Thank you so much, Shawn. This was a very profound conversation.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Mindvalley State's Precision Stacks are here to help put your body in the receiving state while providing the right supplements for the mood you are in. So you're no longer at the mercy of your moods, and Mindvalley States empower you to have control over what mood you would like to be in. So I'm very, very happy that science has made us reach to a point where we can feel empowered over our own moods, and we can make an active decision of what exact mood we want to be in at every moment of our lives. Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation, and what a beautiful moment. Thank you. Thank you so much.